All right.
We
Thanks for having
survived, guys. We were at the last one. Time flew, didn't it? So, Raichu, I am going to make you presenter, and you can close us out with your Nukige talk.
Oh, God.
Uh,
Do we have to? All right. So, for the purposes of this talk, I am going to close down Discord because last year I got really sidetracked. So, we're going to go ahead and minimize that now. And just want to make sure that everything is good. This is just a quick microphone check too. I was having some microphone issues earlier. Is this fine? Okay,
You're fine.
great. All right. Taking bets on whether or not Ryechu is drunk. I did see that. No comment. We good to go then?
Good to go whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, my name is Joshua Renner. You guys might know me as Ryechu in the visual novel community. And this is a continuation of my talk from last year. And this talk is entitled Nukige with Plots? Question mark, exclamation point. So last year I talked about the importance of getting all of your staff, where to find your staff, where to actually begin with the process. And last year I noticed that I sort of completely disregarded what Nukige actually is and the length and what should actually be included in your Nukige. I said a couple things about what you shouldn't include in terms of fetishes and the like, but we didn't necessarily get into what we should include. So before I begin, of course, this is the Nukige talk, so we will be talking about adult content. I'm trying my best not to mention any extreme genres, but I guarantee you by the end of this, I will mention at least one or two. Just a heads up. I don't have any not safe for work images in my presentations, obviously for YouTube reasons. I do go into LGBTQIA plus community again, very shortly, mostly just mentions. And I'm adding this disclaimer this year because as I was practicing this presentation with a couple friends of mine, one of them mentioned that some people may take offense to things that I say because they may think that their work is being targeted. I have not, that is not my intent. I have nothing of that nature. Your game may have been included in my research. I don't know. I took all titles off. I tried to take as much identifiable information off as I possibly could. So if something I say offends you directly, please talk to me about it. I will do my best to rationalize it. I will do my best. I'll try to show you what research I can. My research is currently not disseminable, just for the pure purpose that I'm still doing this research as part of my degree, actually. So quick little background about me. I work as a freelance writer, editor, and beta tester. I work in the localization community. I work for Frontwing, Manga Gamer, and Sekai Project. Less so in the fan translation market now. I'm basically away from the gray space and more into the official. I also serve as the Kickstarter and PR director of Critical Bliss. I'm also the head editor for them. I co-run Sukiware, and I am serving as a writer and an editor for them. We have 2 projects in progress there. I've also done writing for Vandal Games in the past. So I did some research and I got some math, and I'm an English major, so my math is terrible. Take it with a grain of salt. Thanks to all of the programmers and hackers who have helped me behind the scenes, I was able to get 219 Japanese origin Nukige scripts. And this is just the script itself, no extra programming information. I'm talking the text. All of these games are listed as short on V&D, so we're talking the 2 to 10 hour range. I don't think anything very short ended up on there, sub 2 hours, but if it did, I'm not seeing it. Of these 219, approximately a quarter of them were localized into English, so I decided that I would do my best to include those scripts as well. However, I would like to point out that this sample size is still not large enough to give you perfect workable information. This is just what I have so far. What I've noticed in these projects, though, is the average length in Japanese characters of a Nukige is about 140,000 characters. And the ratio of Japanese characters to English words is about 3.5 to 1. I found that the average length in English words of the 47 that I looked at was approximately 38,000 words. The average number of romanceable characters in these games, and I define romanceable as characters that have routes devoted to them. For any kinetic nukige, I decided that there would only be one romanceable character for the purposes of those. There may be multiple. For example, it may be a pair of twins or something like that. I just counted those as one for the purposes of this research. We have approximately two romanceable characters, just a little over two, per Japanese origin nukige. The total number of characters, so this includes side characters, this also includes the protagonist, is a little over 6. So about half of the characters are involved in the adult situations, and the other half serve as some sort of support staff or something of that nature. Sometimes they get involved, who knows? And I noticed that the ratio of H scenes and non-H scenes, a lot of the games that I worked with had utilized Kiri or some sort of engine that splits the scripts into either, like the common route scenes, they're all split up by like actual scene. They're all split up into the H scenes. Each one has their own scene. So I was able to count and get some sort of nice ratio. I describe an H scene as something where some sort of sexually stimulating act is performed, regardless of whether or not there is any penetration in the scene. So this does not include just a standard kiss scene for the purposes of my research, unless it was included in a sexually stimulating scene, of course. And then I came to the Western market, and I already see y'all judging me. I've thus far researched 69 nukige, LOL. Some very short titles did end up in this search, including the one that I wrote, Critical Hit. But 90% of them at least are listed as short on VNDB as well. So we're talking 2 to 10 hours. This does include some flash games on like Newgrounds and things like that, but all of these are listed as short titles. Again, this sample size is incredibly small. Again, I'm still trying to get more information, things like that, but nukige is a newer market in the Western industry, so it's a little harder to find them. But what I did find is that the average length of these games is down in the 21,000 word range. Average number of romanceable characters is much higher. We're getting closer to 4, with the total number of characters being 5. That includes the protagonist. So essentially, every single character in the game is romanceable. Less often do we have side characters. And the ratio of H scenes and non-H scenes is about the same. We're talking 3.7 to 1, about 4 to 1 for both. So let's look at that side by side. So disregarding the Japanese characters, because that doesn't really help us in this situation, we are looking at about 1.5 times the length for any given Japanese origin nukige. We're looking at fewer romanceable characters overall, but more characters in total in Japanese nukige, with all characters generally being romanceable in English origin. There's also a slightly higher ratio of H scenes and non-H scenes. I attribute this to just having more words. But what I've noticed in the Western market is that there is a quantity over quality mentality going on, except it's not being applied in the right places. So let's look at actually what makes a quality nukige. There are 4 primary topics. The first is the fact that plots, and I put this in quotations for the purpose of, yes, your game has to have some sort of scenario that leads to characters having sex, but the term nukige in and of itself is, porn without reason, porn without plot. So we have to take that with a grain of salt. Secondly, we have characterization that doesn't detract from this plot. So when we are developing our characters, we want to have our characters be more than just a single, like, we have the shy girl, we have the go-getter girl, we have the yandere, we have the yandere, because I love yanderes. We have these single tropes, but once you get into their route, it's like that trope either disappears, or it's a one-shot playoff, and then there's nothing else you can really do with it, or it's a mess. So the third and fourth topics in nukige, these are sort of similar, but I put them separately for a reason. Number one, you have to have stimulating content. And, all of the Kappa faces in the world can't describe this, but when I use the word stimulating, I mean precisely what it would sound like. But I'm also looking at varied content as well. In order for content to be stimulating, you could see it once, oh my God, that's great. Now I want something else. However, we notice in most Nukige that doesn't always happen. Some scenes, some ideas are reused, but if you do it just a little bit, it's okay, it's acceptable. So there are two standard route structures of Nukige. The first is the standard classic route structure. The best example of this that is a non-Nukige is Clannad. Essentially, once you get into a character's route, you literally see nobody else ever again. We have the idea is that there's going to be some sort of choice that occurs in the game that essentially alienates everybody else from the game. And then there will be choices contained within that route that bring up different fetishes. You'll notice in this presentation that we have in the very first row, we have the B fetish repeated once for each character, and then we have the C fetish repeated once in the first row and once in the second row for each character. The idea here is that there are only so many positions in the Kama Sutra that you can really use and that work that people are going to be interested in. I don't want to see a person trying to do a pretzel when they probably are about as good a shape as I am, which isn't saying much. That's probably not going to be stimulating. It's varied, yes, absolutely, but it's not stimulating. So there are some scenes we're going to see over and over and over. The Sonohana games do a really good job of this. Virtually every route has some sort of oral fixation scene, some sort of tribbing scene, some sort of basic material that's going to be reused because, well, that's what you do. There are additional endings that can be included in the classic route structure, examples, harem routes or things like that. I ran out of space when I was creating this crudely drawn document, so pretend they are there. The other structure is the kinetic structure, where crossing is common. This is the go-to for Western games. We have a overarching story where choices will determine what character the protagonist ends up with or what may happen, things of that nature. So early on, it's usually an early branching route, but it ends up always coming back to a final story that will end with a character-specific route of some variety. Sometimes there isn't. The E fetish that I have at the bottom here, this would be the orgy scene, as is common in metakinetic structured Nukige as well. There is a third route structure that I have been working with. It is not a standard route structure. It is not something that's commonly used, but I feel it is a potential solution for the I have fewer words but too many characters issue. And that is the concept of what's called a one-shot. So this image is from a game called Absolute Obedience, which was localized by is it Hentai Project? Anyway, it's on Jast. This was back when BL was first becoming a thing. This was released simultaneously with Enzai, both essentially the only legitimate BL sexual games that have been released. There have been some since, there have been some fan translated since, but these are the two that started it. What Absolute Obedience did was there are a total of 12 different characters in this game, not including the two protagonists and Gallagher, who is the support character. And each of these characters has its own self-contained route. It comes with choices. They are very kinetic in nature. They are very kinetic in nature. They follow a full structure. However, if your character picks a wrong choice, the game will end sooner. You will get a lower quote-unquote grade. In order to get the perfect ending, all of the results must be A's. They must be perfectly played all the way through. And there's even an order that you must play them in. You may have the option right now to pick any of the 6, But for example, if you pick number 5, you can't play number 2 or 1 after that fact. This is all hard programmed into the game, but this allows for a number of things. This allows you to have fewer words in your game. If you have a 21,000 word game and you have one sex scene for each character, or even 2 sex scenes for each character, maybe each one is 750 words long. That is an arbitrary number that I just pulled out of my butt. And we just have this all put together. If you total all of that up, you're going to have an average length game. You're going to have about a 40,000 word game. Don't check the math on that. I don't think I did that right. But essentially, you're going to end up with something that's longer that utilizes all the characters you want. If you want to utilize multiple fetishes, if you want to utilize multiple characters, you have the option to do that with one-shot combined games. I am presently working on a one-shot combined game. When I have more information, you will hear about it through Sukiware, and I hope you guys will enjoy that. Now, I had a slide here that was filled out and all this other stuff, but I've been listening to other talks today, and there has been a lot of mention about the importance of editors and quality assurance people, beta testers, things like that. However, in the Western market, I have noticed a trend of Western games being released that either apparently seemingly lack editing or lack any sort of QA. I've seen releases that come out buggy. A lot of these are Flash games that, if a bug happens because you uploaded it to Newgrounds and Newgrounds is doing something silly and it breaks the game, it's things you can't account always for, but it happens. But I want to talk about the importance of having an editor and having a good QA staff. And I want to use the word competent, but you have to learn somehow. So I'll leave it at that. But the importance of having an editor. As an editor myself, my job is to ensure that a story as it's being created makes sense from top to bottom. The idea is that when a writer writes their game, they are going to believe that their game is cohesive, it makes sense. I'm not going to say perfect, but they may have the mentality that it's perfect, things like that. That's not always the case. When an editor goes in, when a QA member goes in and reads this game, they may have a vastly different opinion. And it's those opinions and then the discussion that happens afterwards that ultimately is going to improve your Nukige as a whole. So if your editor points out that in your Nukige, you're utilizing the same sexual position like 50% of the time, when you know full well that you have many other options, and you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, yeah, he's, this editor is correct, what's going on, maybe I should vary it up. Or, same situation, but, we have too much variety. I'm seeing 10 different fetishes when, that's overkill. Maybe we should only have 6 of those. Or what is the importance of this sex scene? Well, to stimulate the viewer. Well, as a viewer, I'm not stimulated. What's wrong? And then the discussions that happen after that is what improves your game. Secondly, QA. Every single localization company has QA. These are people who have not ever seen the game prior to its quote unquote completed state. We want to say that the game is completed, but there may still be issues. That's why we're hiring QA. These are the people who go in, read the game blind, and just generally provide feedback. QA and beta testing are in similar veins. I tend to use them pretty much as like synonyms of each other. Beta testing would also include, testing the actual technical aspects of the game. If I turn up the music, is the music going to turn up, for example? If I turn it down, will it turn down for what? Things of that nature. They are also the last line of defense to ensure that, if the writer and the editor are both wrong and, the QA is like, wait a second, what is the importance of this scene? I'm not seeing it. Maybe there's something more going on there that needs to be made aware of. Maybe we need to see, maybe we need to adjust the scene. Maybe we need to add additional information. Maybe we need to do something that improves the coherency of this game as a whole. Because Nukige isn't just a money grab. It's not a cash grab. And that is what the mentality is. We put quantity over quality in order to try to get as many people as possible. And as an editor, my job is to take that mentality and try to put it back down to something that people are actually going to enjoy. Because if people enjoy the game, you know, marketing dictates that they'll tell their friends, and their friends will hopefully buy the game, and then that will change, and then you'll get a snowball effect, and it will be beautiful, and I'll love it, and it's so great. And by the way, if you guys don't know, I love Nukige. For this research, I have read or at least looked at almost 300 Nukige. And there are hundreds more out there. It's kind of scary how much Nukige out there is that I haven't read. That, you know, maybe there's something unique out there that I'm not seeing. And if you guys have any Nukige ideas, any suggestions, I am currently writing a thesis on the creation of pornographic visual novels as a form of rhetorical agency, as a form of procedural rhetoric. The idea that in order to get from point A to point B, an audience has to make some sort of selection. And I want to see how that comes from a sociological perspective, utilizing pornography. So if you guys have any ideas, any structure ideas, things like that, please send them my way. If you happen to see anything unique that maybe I haven't mentioned, please, 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 please give that to me. That is the end of my presentation. Let me go ahead and back out of this really quick. I'm gonna pull this up. Thank you, thank you. So my Twitter is @JRyechuR. My Discord information is there. If you have any business inquiries or anything like that, please get in touch with me. Send me an email. Contact me on Discord. Just give me something that, you know, I'd love to talk to you, especially if you like Nukige. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I am now open for a questiones.
All right.
All right. Let me scroll up here really quick. Difference between Nukige and eroge, just really quick. Nukige is quite literally porn without plot. Eroge is just a, ero means sex, of some variation of sex, but that's not the primary point of the game. Let's see. What would you say the golden rule or golden ratio of story to sex is in a Nukige? For me, I say per character at least 3 scenes with no more than 5. And the problem with saying that is, in order to get that many sex scenes, we're going to have to develop enough information, enough like plot, and this is without quotes, to actually get to that point. 3 is the safe number. You know, if you have 6 choices in a game, you can have 3 sex scenes for each character in that aspect, and then you can even end up with a scene in that aspect. You can end up with additional scenes after the fact. All right, let me scroll down here. I mentioned too many fetishes. Is that even possible? The answer to that is yes. Yes, yes, yes. God damn it, yes. Okay. If you have tentacles in your game, I do not want to have something that doesn't have tentacles after the fact. If you have a tentacle game, make that your focus. Keep that your focus. Especially once we get into extreme fetishes. When we get into the more heavy fetishes, the amount of content and variety that you can put in starts to lessen, because audiences are going to have some sort of expectancy. They're going to anticipate that your game, if you open your game with a tentacle scene, we're going to expect by the end that that tentacle is going to either triple penetrate you or impregnate you, or both. Probably both. But that's kind of the idea here. Check out the tentacle, basically, yeah. So things of that nature, yeah. Let's see. LGBT, the only LGBT thing I ended up actually mentioning was the Absolute Obedience game. That is a boys' love game. It is the concept of the game is actually really fun. The 2 main characters are both detectives who are assigned various people who essentially the clients want them to turn gay. It's actually a really fun story. You don't want an NTR, tentacle, insect, pea, scat, lolly, monster girl, all in one nukige. I could do all of those except NTR in one nukige. NTR might be the kicker here. Might be the one where kind of falls out of place. Yeah. I guess if the monster stole your girl. Well, here's the problem. The monster's probably going to steal you too. Like that's basically, well, NTR is its own like field. Like it belongs in its own thing. But if the tentacle monster NTRs you, they're probably going to have sex with you as well. So, take that as you will.
All right. On that note, I'm going to close out this event. Hey, I put you here deliberately. You know that.
I know.
So I expected that we're going to close on this kind of note because, hey, why not? Oh, it's my conference. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, this is why we do not have sponsors, people. This is why ticket sales are a thing.